I'm Byron Hurt, and this is Finlandia Fridays.
Welcome to Finlandia Fridays. My name is Michael Babcock. I am your host for this weekly interview series here at Finlandia University. Before we get started, I wanted to have two quick announcements. A special shout out to our board of directors who are in town this week, helping to keep things organized for us at Finlandia. And also I want to welcome all of our alumni to town next week, and we have our homecoming coming up, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But for now, let's focus on something that just started this week here at Finlandia University, our second annual Month of Action. This is a month of events on campus meant to raise awareness for the dangers of sexual violence, which brings us to our guest today, Byron Hurt. Byron gave a speech earlier this week to a packed audience at the Finnish American Heritage Center. Byron, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're extremely happy to have you on campus. It was last night, earlier this week, we had a great audience at the Heritage Center. The people seemed really engaged. You made a really touching post after on Facebook about how you battled through a little bit of adversity to get here and make it happen and give a great speech. What was it like at the event on Tuesday?
I wasn't really sure what to expect, how many people would show up to the event, but I was really pleased to see that it was a pretty full house last night. So whenever I speak in front of a group or a large audience, I want to make sure that I leave an impact, and I was feeling a little bit tired yesterday, but I realized that I had an opportunity to maybe transform someone's life or to get someone to think critically about gender violence, in a way that they had not thought about it before, and so that gave me the extra energy I needed to really try and deliver a good presentation.
Yeah, and you did a great job. We'll have a link to your Facebook and Twitter profiles in the show notes. Cool. I highly suggest people go out there and check that out because it was a really it was a touching post, and I think it really described the night pretty well. What was interesting to me is as you were talking, you had all these awesome experiences talking about things that like you flash back to when you were 5 and when you were 19 coming home. What got you interested in talking about this topic?
Well, I really had no interest in talking about this topic at all. It wasn't even on my radar screen, to be honest with you. When I graduated from college, I graduated with a journalism degree in radio and television broadcasting. And so my expectation was that I was going to pursue that career. But it was kind of challenging for me to break into that industry as a young person. And I was offered an opportunity to work at a place called the Center for the Study of Sport and Society, to use my influence as an athlete and a former athlete to do community service and to go into communities and to address social issues. And so I think I was identified as someone who would be a good person to work for a new program called the Mentors in Violence Prevention Program, which is designed to educate boys and men about sexism and violence against women. And that's something I would never, it was not my career path at all whatsoever, okay? I didn't know anything about these issues. And I met a guy named Jackson Katz, and he sat me down, and we had a conversation very similar to this. And he explained the program to me. He explained that they were looking for young men like me to stand up and to publicly address all forms of gender violence. And they were looking for men who had the courage to do that, to speak in front of audiences of other men. And to be honest with you, initially I was like, I don't know if this is for me, because I didn't know any other guys who did that kind of work. I didn't grow up in a household. My father spoke out against sexism. I didn't have, I didn't have a lot of friends who spoke out against sexism. It just seemed like a weird thing for me to do after I graduated from college. Right. But I went to a presentation that Jackson gave, and I was kind of sold that it was an issue that needed to be addressed. And I decided to do it, and I said I would commit to it for 1 year, and I've been doing it ever since. So that's how I got into it. And I think one of the reasons that helped me make the decision was that I knew that what Jackson spoke of in terms of like the pervasiveness of violence against women and male behavior, how we sometimes treat women, I knew that was like a real thing. Like I knew he wasn't lying about that because I had the firsthand experiences that let me know that that guys treat women inappropriately in many different ways. So really, it was a matter of me having the courage to actually say yes and to do it. And I remember my first presentation. I gave a talk with Jackson in front of a basketball team, and I was so nervous, man. I mean, I was just like so nervous because I didn't know what they were going to think about me. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was like guys my age, and here I was speaking out against violence against women.
Yeah.
And at that time, that, you know, nobody was really talking about it in that way to men.
Right.
And when I said, I should change that, because I know there were a lot of women who have been trying to get men to pay attention, but it really wasn't coming out of the mouth of a male.
Yeah.
You know, a male, but there was no male voice. And so, you know, it was a life-changing experience for me, and I realized that it was something that needed to be addressed.
I think you did a really good job. The best part to me is how relatable you made it. I think everybody in that room got it, which is not always easy to do when you're talking about a difficult topic like that.
Yeah.
What was the main topic or main point you'd want people to leave after they leave one of your presentations with?
I think the main point that I wanted people to leave with is that, you know, everyone has a stake in addressing gender violence, right? Whether you are a woman or a male, there are men who have women in their lives that they care about who are deeply affected by gender violence, right? Whether it's sexual harassment, rape, battering, emotional abuse. I mean, every person has a stake in ending it, because we have people who we value and who we love, who we're connected to. And I think, you know, that message is easy to get across to women because they deal with it on a regular basis, and it affects them probably more directly.
Right.
But for men, we don't really make that connection as easily. So I think you have to really you have to reveal the different ways that it does affect us as men. And that as men, we can actually speak up about it and potentially change it. We can end it if we wanted to, you know, because we're the ones who are mostly, not only, but mostly perpetuating it.
Right.
So, I mean, my takeaway, the thing that I want people to take away is that, you know, we all have a role to play, and we should, you know, muster up the courage and play the role.
Yeah. I'd highly suggest go to the show notes here, Finlandia.edu/Fridays. There's a lot of tweets out there that kind of talk about some of these things and kind of put the perspective, let everybody kind of understand where these things are coming from. Last thing I want to talk to you about is the hazing documentary you're working on. Tell us a little bit about what that project is.
Well, this project is a labor of love. I made a decision after I made my last film, which is called Soul Food Junkies, to address the issue of hazing. And it's an issue that is very personal to me. And it's an issue that affects a lot of people who remain silent about it, because you're not really supposed to talk about hazing publicly. And so it's a film that I'm working on now. I'm in my 4th year of working on it.
Wow.
And, you know, it's a challenging film to make because there's a lot of silence around hazing. It's a taboo subject to talk about. A lot of people who either experience it or who perpetuate it don't want to talk about it. Many of the organizations that engage in hazing are secret society organizations, right? So there's a lot of there's a lot of secrecy involved. So it's a really challenging project, but, you know, I hope that my film will give people the space that they need to talk about it more. And that someone, doesn't die as a result of hazing.
Excellent. And you're doing some filming on campus. What made you interested in doing some filming here in the Copper Country?
Well, I was going to be here on campus, and I did a little research and discovered that there will be activities here for Hazing Prevention Week. And so I decided to shoot some activities to potentially include in the film, right? And I think that one thing that separates Finlandia from a lot of other colleges is that there is no Greek system here. It's mainly athletics. And so, there's a lot of hazing that takes place in the world of athletics and sports culture. And so I think that's an important arena to address. And so that's why I chose Finlandia.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show this week.
Thank you.
It's been great talking with you, and the presentation earlier this week was awesome.
Thank you very much.
As I said, go to finlandia.edu/Fridays. Check out the show notes. We'll have a lot of information. You can learn more about what Byron talks about on a regular basis and get some links to see some of his work. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week and remind them to go to finlandia.edu/calendar to check out the upcoming events. There's a bunch more for Month of Action next week, as well as finlandia.edu/homecoming, where we have a preview of everything we have going on for homecoming that starts next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next Friday.